Morning, guys. Welcome back to day 6 of our lessons. As usual, these messages, these videos going forward for this week are pre-recorded, so make sure you go ahead and watch these videos when you can. Try and get the work done. I'm going to go ahead and check all the assignments right on April 3rd, or starting then, so try and submit everything by April 3rd. Probably on the 6th is when I'm gonna start checking on the assignments so far. I'm going to be selecting the best 3 assignments, so try and make sure you finish all of them. Try and make sure you submit as much of them as possible. That way you have more assignments for me to select from. Alright. So today's lesson is we're gonna go ahead and create a template for an invoice. It's kind of like the one we did with the purchase order in class right before this whole 2 weeks began. You remember the exercise found on the textbook? I think it was on page 80 something or 79. And there was a table there with someone trying to buy paper clips and pens and so forth. So what we're going to do today is doing something similar to that. So please go ahead, open up Excel or Google Sheets. Go ahead and rename the first sheet. This one is going to be the invoice template in all caps. Therefore, why do we do templates? Because we can reuse them as many times as we want. And then obviously if you have a business, you're not just going to generate one single invoice, right? It's going to be multiple invoices to many customers. And why would you go ahead and do it over from scratch all the time when you can create a template and then use that going forward? So that's what we're going to do today. Just the template. We're not going to do any calculations yet. That's for tomorrow's lesson. That's for day 3. And yeah, let's just stick with that. Day 7 is when we're going to put in the calculations for our template. But for today, we're just going to go ahead and create a template, meaning just a design, so that we can create more invoices as we go along. So I'm gonna start this a little bit unconventionally, meaning I'm gonna go straight ahead and start to type in the different headers for our invoice template, and then we're going to fill in the other information and details as we go along. The reason why I mean by that is, for example, when you look at an invoice, the first thing you see is usually the name of a business and also the address, the location, right? Let me go ahead and pull up some examples. But we're going to design our invoice beginning with the headers, right? So again, over here is a good example of how an invoice looks. It starts with the company name, slogan, sometimes it has the logo here, has the billing address, shipping address if your company does shipping, right? And then the headers for the different parts of the table that is used for calculations, right? So what we're going to do is we're going to jump straight to this table here in our invoice, right? And then we'll figure out the rest of the details as we go along. So I'm just going to select A to G just as a default. I'm going to go on column width. This time I'm going to set it to 15. I'm not going to make it way to 25 as usual. So let's just go ahead and put the first thing here is we're gonna put quantity. That tells us how many items is being sold. In this one, we're going to put description, meaning what it is that we're selling. In this one, we're going to put package. All right, package in this case is going to tell us, is it a box? Is it 2 boxes? Is it 3 boxes? You know, or is it a bale? Is it a container? Is it a bundle? You know, depending how the item is packaged, right? And then here let's go ahead and put, let's see, we have quantity, so we can multiply quantity. Alright, so now we have price, just like with the exercise we did last on the last week before classes were closed. Price, so that we can multiply the quantity with the price, and then we have cost. Remember, price is how much one individual package of the item costs, and then cost would be how much the amount will become when the quantity is multiplied by the price. And you know what, I still don't like having the word cost here, because cost and price is very similar. So let's just go ahead and put subtotal. Right, subtotal is not the total, which is like what the entire list of items would cost. What subtotal is kind of like right before that point, right? It's right before you finish calculating all items, right? So again, just for not confusing price with cost, we're just gonna put the word subtotal there, right? So we have our 5 column headers. So let's go ahead and center this all the way down to, let's put it to 20. Go ahead and center these packages. Then we're gonna go ahead and select up to 20 from the rows 1 to 20, and let's make the row height be, let's stick with 20. Alright, so we have our initial headers, and let's go ahead and look at this sheet once more time. So notice here it has the subtotal, but the subtotal is there that accounts for the amount that's before tax, meaning the tax hasn't been applied yet, and that's not what they're going to pay the customer, but it's after the tax has been added. So we're kind of repurposing the word subtotal in our case to take in the amount here. So if it's 65 of something at $300, then this is the subtotal for us. Okay, and that's for us. So down here on the right hand side, I'm just gonna put total on row 20 on column F. Alright, so I'm gonna put total in all caps. So if you look at this, where our invoice is already starting to take shape. The only thing that's missing, right, is to put in the values here, but we're gonna save that for the next class. This is only a template. So now that we're finished with the headers, we can go ahead and put our company's name. Now what should our company be? Well, let me just quickly go ahead and save this first so that I don't lose my work. I'm gonna save it as assignment day 6, first form classes. Alright, so let's name it the best company ever. And then we're gonna go ahead and edit this to be larger, right? Let's put it to font size 20. And then if you notice the overlap, so let's go ahead and just merge these two columns here, these two cells, by right clicking, formatting cells, click on alignment, and then select the merge cells checkbox. Then we're gonna go ahead and select everything up here and center it once again. For this row, I'm just gonna manually adjust the height because I want this to be bigger and show a clear difference compared to the other cells. So this is our company's name. What else can we go ahead and do is, let's put the address below the company name, and we're not gonna put the shipping address, but we're going to go and put our company address. So kind of like the address we've been doing with the letters. Let's just put number 1 Princess Margaret Drive. Kind of not sure if the school is number 1, but I know it's Princess Margaret Drive. Then we go ahead and put Belize City. Then we go ahead and put Belize, comma, Central America, CA. So I'm gonna go ahead and resize this row. I'm just gonna go ahead and select 2, 3, and 4, right click and select the row height, and let's make it be around 50. Alright, so now if you look at this one, it again needs that extra space, so I'm gonna go ahead and right click, select A and B, right click, format cells and merge cells A2 and B2. So let's go ahead and look at a preview. Again, to preview, we go to File, click on Print, and this is basically how our invoice will look. Note that because I centered this address here, it looks like that. So what I'm gonna do instead of having it in each cell is I'm gonna put each of these lines in one cell so that it doesn't have those spaces there. So I'm gonna go ahead, highlight this. Actually no, what happens here is I have to adjust the row height. The reason is when you press enter within a cell, it doesn't skip a line. For example, if I'm here and I'm typing and I press enter, note it just goes to the next cell. So what happens is I need to go and reduce the heights, and then here I'm gonna make it be left aligned and these the same way, because if you go ahead and preview this, now it looks better aligned on one side. Again, there's a little bit of added space here, that's why it looks that way. So I'm gonna go ahead and set the row height to be 10. Alright, that's too small. Let's go with 15. Alright, so now all rows have the same height, and that now they look a lot more uniform than before. So this is how our invoice template looks so far. Let's compare it to this one. Alright, so notice on the right hand side it has the date, it has the word invoice. So why don't we go ahead and copy that as well. But if you look at this one, our company name is there, same, almost in the same place. Our address is also there, also almost in the same place. I'm gonna go ahead and add an empty row between the address and our headers here, just so there's no clutter found right there. So to do this, we'll click on row 4, right click, and we'll click on insert, and actually it inserts a row above, so I'm gonna undo that, click on 5 and insert. So now we have a nice space between the address and the column headers. Alright, so notice again this little dotted line here, that's an imaginary line that tells us, okay, that's the size of the typing sheet. So what I'm going to do then is remove total from here. I'm going to type it in here instead, because I want total to appear within the typing sheet. So now what I'm going to do is go ahead and put in borders up to this point, and this border represents how many items we can fit in our invoice. So our invoice is limited to this amount of lines here, going from this row to this one down here. That's the amount of items we can include. So I'm gonna go ahead and put our border around this. So again, select the headers. We're gonna make this a dark thick border. So we're gonna click on this one and outline. And then in between, yeah, I'm gonna put in between as well, so each line in between has that. Alright, so we're gonna have to do something here, and that's we're gonna have to make B be a little bit bigger. And the reason why is because the description would need a little bit added more space, don't you think? Because for example, if I had left it this small, if we were just to type in, you know, pen, that's not bad, but paper clips, it's starting to get bigger, and depending on what item it is, it might end up overlapping as before, right? So if I make this bigger though, it will exceed the line of the typing sheet. So what I'm gonna do instead is go ahead and apply from here to here, right click, and what we're gonna do is merge, not merge, sorry, wrap the text. That way no overlap is going to happen. And if the word is, for example, a bundle of paper clips, red ones, then it's not going to overlap. And what we can do instead is just adjust the height for that when the time comes, right? But for now, I'm just going to undo everything because we're not going to enter any of the values or any of the descriptions yet. So we have our border out there, so now we're going to include our border found here. So right click, format cells. This time it's going to be a thin border, right? And again, remember from the last lesson, this thick line up here represents the line found on row 6. So we're going to keep that one. Oops. So draw your line in between and at the bottom. I'm going to make the bottom line be thick because it's going to show a clear separation between rows 20 and 21. That way we can say that, okay, see, down here is definitely where the table ends. Notice this right hand side, I didn't apply the thick border, so I'm just going to go ahead, select this column here, and I'm going to apply the thick border on the right side only. So note that. And wondering if I should do the same. Yeah, I'll do the same for the left hand side as well. So thick border, left hand side. Alright, so we go ahead and see how this looks. Alright, so we have a table, we have a bunch of items. If you notice on the online one, they don't have lines in between these tables, but there are for the columns. So I think I'm going to go ahead and copy that same format because it looks a lot neater than this one so far with all those lines in between, right? So go ahead, select them, right click, border. We're going to remove the ones in between. So we're going to keep the columns, but we're going to remove the border lines in between the rows, right, from top to bottom. So okay, so now it looks similar to the one on our example with the online example, right? So let's go ahead and zoom in. Let me see what happens when I make the description a little bit larger. Yeah, see, notice it pushes the subtotal to the next page because that imaginary or that little dotted line shows us that, hey, this dotted line here is where the typing sheet ends. Alright, so anything over this is gonna be too large for our typing sheet. You can also go ahead and set the portrait to landscape. That gives us a lot more space to work with, so why don't we go ahead and do that. Notice when I put it in landscape, the size is larger now because landscape is basically typing sheet that's on its side. So I'm going to go ahead and give description a lot more space now that we actually have the space to work with. Alright, so we go ahead and preview this one more time. Alright, I think this is good enough for our outline. What I'm going to do is I'm going to make the name of the company be left aligned just so everything looks uniform, right? I had this centered at first, but I'm going to go ahead and left align. I'll keep it middle centered, but it's left aligned. Alright, so one more time the preview. So this is what you guys should see. On the next class, I'm going to put the border for the total here, but for now I'm going to keep it as is. So please go ahead and recreate this Excel file found here in this video. Make sure you have the company centered in the middle but left aligned. Make the size be, free-handed, as I manually set the size here. So put a good size where there's a nice space in between the top and the bottom. Go ahead and do on rows 2, 3, and 4 the address. You're gonna have to merge cells A and B for row 1 and row 2, remember that. Put in this address. Make the rows of these 3 columns be uniform, so you're gonna have to set the row height to 15 because we want them to look uniform. We don't want to have odd spaces in between. Then go ahead and create your headers: quantity, description, package, price, and subtotal. Then you go ahead and add some space between these rows here. Right click, row height. I think I had it as 20. After you do that, you put total here in column D, right below row 20. And then go and apply the borders accordingly. Borders around the headers are the tick line, it's an outline, and also inline. The border found on the rows from 7 to 20 are an outline that is thick, but the inline is thin, and it's only in between the text. So let me go ahead and show that to you one more time. So it's only the one in the middle that goes down, that is the thin line here. Alright, so I'll stop here. Make sure you go ahead and perform this. So make sure you do this assignment, do the same template, and then next class we're gonna go ahead and start filling it out and doing some calculations. Alright guys, stay safe. Thanks for watching. I'll see you guys tomorrow. I will be online as usual every day from 9 to 11 or 8:30 to 11 as usual. So make sure you pass up these assignments before, again, April 3rd or on April 3rd. I'm gonna check these on probably April 6th onwards. Alright then guys, thanks again. Have a good day.